Since becoming the world's newest country, South Sudan has struggled to find its feet. A war with its northern neighbour Sudan and the resultant refugee crisis has left many of the country's citizens living in a lethal limbo, as David Adams reports from Maban.
I'm recording this in a tent in Maban. It's a fair bet that the name Maban means absolutely nothing to the vast majority of Irish people, or indeed to people in the West generally. Yet Maban County, in the newly independent country of South Sudan, is the site of the world's most critical, ongoing humanitarian crisis. Maban is in Upper Nile State, close to the heavily disputed border with Sudan, from which South Sudan gained its independence last year. Despite a peace agreement, sporadic fighting has continued between the two countries over their ill-defined territorial boundaries, and as ever, it is innocent people who are bearing the brunt. Upper Nile State is currently playing host to around 110,000 refugees who have fled across the border to escape the conflict. Tens of thousands of other people, former residents, have also returned to the state since independence. Upper Nile simply can't cope with this influx of people. I spent the past week at Batil, one of the refugee camps in Maban, which has a population of around 35,000. I'm with GOAL, visiting the organisation's emergency response programmes here. Some very experienced aid workers have described the situation at Batil as the worst they've ever seen from a humanitarian perspective. This is due to a combination of factors. The remoteness of the location, terrible road infrastructure, and an inability to source materials locally means that everything from fuel to cement and from medical supplies to the most basic of foodstuffs have to be airlifted in or brought by barges to a place called Malut and trucked for 5 hours to Batil. This makes the humanitarian response a hugely expensive, time-consuming and difficult operation. A classic seller's market exists, with demand far outstripping the ready availability of virtually any item one can imagine, from the mundane to the essential. Communications are a nightmare, with phone coverage patchy, to say the least of it, and internet access sporadic. Batil Camp could hardly be sited at a worse location. It is on swampland and is mosquito-ridden. It's hardly surprising then that malaria is rife amongst the refugees. Worse still, most of these people have come from regions that sit on higher ground and have few mosquitoes, so there is little tolerance amongst them to malaria. It hits the refugees like a sledgehammer, particularly the children, causing many mortalities. When it rains, which is often at this time of the year, Batil floods and reverts to a swamp, within which 35,000 people are living and moving around. Clean water is non-existent, except for what the aid organisations can supply, and food is extremely scarce. The sanitation arrangements are dire, so the health situation is extremely bad and getting worse. Malnutrition, malaria, diarrhoea, eye infections and skin infections are all commonplace. As an indicator of the scarcity of food, the global malnutrition rate amongst children at Batil is running at 27.5%. Serious malnutrition is running at 7.1%. To put this latter figure into perspective, 5% serious malnutrition rates are considered an emergency. The Batil rates are higher than that by almost half again. As I have moved around the camp speaking to the families, the stories are always broadly similar. To escape aerial bombardment and gunfire, they left their homes with what little they could carry and walked for weeks or months, shuttled from location to location until finally they reached Maban. Many lost family members along the way. The refugees may have reached safety, but it's only of a sort. They're crying out for a ready supply of clean water and food. They need sanitation and health facilities. They are eager to earn money, but employment is all but unavailable. Unless the West intervenes decisively and directs enough energy and resources at this emergency, before very long, everyone in the West will know the name of Maban, because there is a strong chance it will become infamous as the crisis we all but ignored until it was too late to save thousands of innocent lives. For World Report, this is David Adams in Maban, South Sudan.